The moment Arya Miles felt his hand on hers, the world seemed to stop, not gently, but like someone had pulled the emergency brakes on her life. Sunlight poured through the studio windows, dust floating in the air like tiny suspended memories, but all she could feel was the unexpected warmth of a touch she hadn't realized she'd been starving for. She wasn't the kind of woman who froze easily. Years of holding herself together had made her steady, unshakable. Yet, that single accidental brush of fingers from a young man she barely knew unraveled. Something she buried long ago, something she thought had died quietly inside her heart. If you believe in kindness, healing, and second chances, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Heartbeat Tales. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Arya wasn't old, but she felt older than the years written on her ID. 38, independent, running a small community art studio after a harsh divorce that drained more than her savings. She had built her life carefully, brick by brick, promising herself she would never again allow her heart to depend on anyone else's hands. Love, she decided, was a luxury one she could live without. But loneliness has a way of whispering through the cracks, especially on quiet afternoons when the studio hummed with soft music and distant streets of the town glowed with life she no longer felt part of. Evan Hale walked into her life on such an afternoon. 24, kind, more gentleness in his smile than arrogance in his youth. He came looking for volunteer work, wanting to help with the children's weekend art program. Arya agreed, mostly because she was tired and behind schedule, not because she expected anything meaningful to come from it. But as weeks passed, she noticed the way he listened when she spoke, the way he treated every chair with patient warmth, the way he noticed when she looked exhausted and quietly stepped in to help. Not with grand gestures, just simple, thoughtful acts she'd forgotten people still offered. Still, she kept her distance. She was good at that, until the day the sunlight shifted everything. Arya was arranging supplies when she slipped on a small patch of spilled paint. Evan reached out instinctively, steadying her by the arms. His hand slid down to cover hers, only to ensure she didn't fall. But the contact, it was as if someone breathed life back into a room she'd kept locked for years. She pulled her hand away quickly, pretending it meant nothing. Yet, her heart betrayed her with a tremor she hadn't felt since she was 20. The rest of the day felt different. Color seemed brighter. The breeze from the window felt softer. Something inside her whispered, "You're still alive." But Arya fought it. She didn't trust feelings, especially ones that arrived unexpectedly, wrapped in warmth and youth and danger. She reminded herself that life wasn't a romantic film. She reminded herself that pain often disguises itself as hope. She reminded herself she was older, guarded, and that the world judged women like her far more harshly than men like him. Yet Evan never pushed. He simply continued being who he was, steady, helpful, quietly kind in ways that made her feel seen for the first time in years. He showed up early to fix shelves she struggled with. He brewed an extra cup of tea and placed it on a desk without a word. He played music the kids liked and encouraged them to paint bigger, brighter dreams. Weeks passed, and the studio felt warmer with him in it. One Sunday afternoon, as the children left, and silence draped the room, Arya felt that familiar heaviness, the weight of old wounds resurfacing. She stood alone by the window, hugging her arms around herself. When Evan approached, she expected him to ask about supplies or schedules, but he simply placed a soft hand on her shoulder. Not possessive, not forward, just present. That touch didn't spark shock this time. Instead, it settled into her like a reminder of everything she once believed in. Her breath caught. She didn't move away. Evan said nothing. He didn't need to. His presence spoke for him, a gentle reassurance that she wasn't as alone as she'd convinced herself. Arya realized then that life doesn't always give second chances in dramatic ways. Sometimes it gives them softly through kind smiles and quiet afternoons, and hands that steady you when you fall. It wasn't love, not yet. But it was healing, it was warmth, it was the return of a heartbeat she thought had gone silent forever. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Heartbeat Tales. Your engagement keeps these emotional stories reaching more people who may need them. Special request: comment below. Healing begins with kindness. Arya didn't know where her connection with Evan would lead, and she didn't need to. What mattered was that for the first time in years, she felt something awaken inside her. Not because someone saved her, but because someone reminded her she was still capable of being moved, still capable of feeling, still capable of living fully. And sometimes, that is the most beautiful beginning of